I'm going to share my screen with you. Now, before I talk in detail about verbs, I want to make sure that we are all on the same page, that we all understand what I'm talking about. That is, I'm clear and you are understanding because we're not interacting. I wish we could, but we're not interacting. So I'm talking about verbs. I'm going to talk about for the next, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, maybe even up to 10 videos, talking about verbs, verb tenses, verb moods, passive voice versus active voice, all of that. So I wanted to find some terms here. First of all, let's just talk about a verb. A verb means action. It's the action word, or sometimes it's the state of being. But normally when you're talking about a verb, you're talking about action. It's the most important part of parts of speech. Without a verb, all you have is a string of words. Nothing makes sense. So a sentence must contain a verb. A sentence doesn't have to contain an article. A sentence doesn't have to contain an adjective. A sentence does not have to contain a noun or a pronoun or an adjective or a conjunction or preposition, an interjection. It doesn't have to contain any of that. But if a sentence does not contain a verb, it's just a string of words. And sometimes it makes sense, sorta, and sometimes it doesn't. Most times it doesn't if you don't understand the context. But a verb, like verbs like to be, to become, those are state of being. But besides that, a verb equals action. And just like a word, in order to pronounce it, must contain a vowel, a sentence, in order for it to be a complete idea, must contain a verb. Now, verbs fall into two categories. They're regular and irregular. I'm pretty sure you recognize this from way back in the day when you were in grade school. And by the way, what I'm saying in English, I'm talking about Spanish tenses, but everything that I'm saying about verbs, you can apply to both Spanish and English. A verb, un verbo, B chica, A-R, B grande, O, can fall into two very general categories. They are either regular or they are irregular. Right? Those are the two very large categories because of course there's subcategories. A verb is regular. In Spanish, you would recognize the word regular, regla. Regla means rule, when it follows the rule. So I tell you how you do this. I say to you, for example, the verb is hablar. And I tell you, in order to conjugate the verb hablar in el presente indicativo, in the present indicative, lo que se tiene que hacer, se tiene que quitar la AR. You have to remove the AR. Okay, so now you're ready to work. If you're talking about I, yo, you put an O. If you're talking about to, which is the informal you put an AS. If you're talking about él, he, ella, she, or usted is more formal you just add an A. If you're talking about nosotros, I don't do nosotros. If you're talking about nosotros, you add AMOS. If you're talking about ellos, they, masculine or mixed, ella, feminine and only feminine, or ustedes, you, but plural you. It's like when we say in English, y'all, because in reality, in English, you is both singular and plural. You have are in it. And I can give you the AR verbs, the ER verbs, and the IR verbs. That's a rule. It tells you how to do it. Not all verbs do that. But if you have un verbo regular, a regular verb, what you do is you learn the rule. So the rule for AR verb, present indicative, un verbo AR en el presente indicativo. Okay, what you learn is o, as, a, amos, an. And anytime you see a verb that ends in AR and it's regular, you can apply those endings. And you have I talk or I speak, you talk or you speak. He talks or he speaks, she talks or she speaks. We talk or we speak. They masculine are mixed, that is male and female. They female and only female, and you plural, talk or speak. Hablo, hablas, habla, hablamos, hablan. But this is language, you know that. This is language. And when it's language, you're going to have verbs that are irregular. The IR means not. Just like UN means not. IR, just like IL means not. This is a prefix. Okay, that's a prefix. You put it in front of the noun, in front of the adjective in this case. And now it's telling you the verb is not regular, it's irregular. It does not follow the rule. You have the verb, for example, poder. Poder is an example of a verb in both English and in Spanish. In English, it's I, you, we, they, he, she, it, can in a present indicative. It's easier. You know, you don't have to worry about the S and everything like that. But that's not the point. A regular verb does not mean that it's easier. All it means is that it follows the rules. So when you have the verb can, the verb can in English, first place, you don't say to can, you just say can. And the way you conjugate in the present indicative is I, you, we, they, he, she, it, can. And that's easier, but that has nothing to do with it being regular or irregular. In Spanish, the verb can is poder. Now, in the infinitive form, it's regular. But in the conjugation, you know, I, you, we, they, he, she, it, it's irregular. It's puedo, puedes, puede, podemos, pueden. Right? And in Spanish, you normally have it this way. Yo, tú, you have yo, tú, él, ella, usted, nosotros, ellos, ellas, ustedes. That's how you do it. So it's puedo, puedes, puede, podemos, pueden. It's irregular. It's not just a matter of removing the ER or the AR, and there you have it. The verb, one of the verbs that's super irregular is the verb ser, to be. Now there's two verbs to be in Spanish. One is more permanent and the other is more temporary, but it's not that simple. But if you want to put in general categories, right? The verb ser, the verb estar is also irregular, but not as much, but the verb said is very irregular. Soy, eres, es, somos, son. Okay, that's I am, you are, he, she, it is, they are. Okay, that's an irregular verb. It's irregular. Once again, it's irregular in English too. But don't be fooled. Sometimes a verb is irregular in English and it's not irregular in Spanish and vice versa. So an irregular verb is a verb that does not follow the rule. It's an exception to the rule. Okay, I'm gonna do one more, then I'll do another video. Now you have a thing called verb form. You know what? I think I want to do all the verb forms together. So I'll do that in the next video. Rather than have this video run, long as a lot of my videos run. Not everybody wants to sit there and listen. I understand that. So I'm gonna do this in the next video. So this is Corella Fickler McLean at Corella Fickler McLean, not at, because then you'll write down Corella Fickler McLean at. It's Corella Fickler McLean. Welcome, WYLCOME.com. Thank you for coming to my videos. I hope this helps you. This is going to be one in a set of 10 videos, maybe even more, in which we look at verbs in all their glory in Spanish, in all their glory. But right now, what I'm basically doing is, what I'm doing right now is defining terms. So when I'm talking about the mood, you'll understand what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about the tense, you'll understand what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about a verb form, you'll know what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about conjugation, when you conjugate a verb, you put it in its different persons. I, you, we, they, he, she, it. That's how you do it in English. In Spanish is yo, tú, él, ella, usted, ustedes, ellos, ellas, ustedes. I don't do vosotros. I never use vosotros. So in the next video, I will continue looking at the different words that we need to understand so we can understand the videos that are going to talk about verbs in much more detail. Corella Fickler McLean, welcome.com. Thank you for coming. Stop sharing and have a good day. Bye-bye.